Hello there, welcome to the video. So, landscape photography is kind of a strange hobby. Often it's failed image after failed image after failed image, until you get that one image that gives you hope that you're not a completely incompetent photographer. And well, I recently bought some new film, some NoColorStudio number 12. It's a cool film, and it's a bit weird. It's like film on paper. And I wanted to try that out on an equally cool location. I had this one spot marked on my Google Maps in the archipelago of Blekinge. A great excuse for a small, easy photography trip. Finally, I found an image. It has been difficult today. I do know I say that quite often, but I am very selective with the images I take, especially when I'm doing large format. And today has been especially tricky. I had actually given up on this spot and started heading back to the car. But as I did that, I passed through this valley of hills of rocks. And they are very apparent man-made rocks, as they are very carved. It's carved rocks. And this is an old stone quarry. And as I passed through this valley, I spotted this tree, and that caught my interest. However, that particular tree didn't quite work as a photograph. So I started heading back. So I started heading away from the walking path, started to explore this area. It is quite interesting, but difficult to photograph. But I think I found an image that is somewhat interesting, if not beautiful. We have this quite open space with these carved rocks, creating quite a nice little flow. And then we have this very prominent tree, exactly what I was searching for. However, there's a power line in the background. I don't like it, I don't mind it, but I don't like how it intersects with the tree. I did my best, and we'll see if this will work. I've taken one photograph on Fomapan 100. I will also try and take one on NoColorStudio number 12, which is the film I'm out photographing today and that I want to try out. It is this weird paper film, and it is ISO 6, so we'll see how I fare. Not the best location, to be honest. It was okay in the end. 2 images, nothing I'm overly excited by. There's one more location I'm going to try to check out before the sun sets completely. There's 2 hours left of sunlight today. So we are going to check out an old boat, actually. kind of gave up on finding that second location just because the sun started to set and I needed to get some dinner. So I had a nice little barbecue. Oh, I just cooked up some sausages. I'm going to try and get some sleep, and we'll try to find that second location tomorrow morning instead. And it's actually forecasted for some fog, so it might be really nice. So I couldn't find the location I was looking for. There's supposed to be this like old ship cemetery here. It is marked on Google Maps, and I found a webpage describing how to get there. And it said to park here and head north following the walking path. I found something that looked like a path that you could follow. It wasn't marked and I wasn't expecting that. But I kind of ended up at a dead end with a stone wall and the sea to the left. So I followed the stone wall, but I could never start heading north again. I just ended up out along a farm. I felt a bit uncomfortable, but I got to the road at least, and I just followed the road back. This whole area has been a bit uncomfortable for me. There's not like a obvious nature preserve or anything like that you can explore. Instead, it is like these small pockets of nature, and not my favorite. A bit uncomfortable. So I might just head home. It was nice to test the camper van though, and we'll make a couple of images another day. There's one more spot I'm going to stop by before heading back. It's marked from the road, so hopefully I can find that at least. We'll see. Yeah. There was one cool location. Just as I had entered the bunker, I heard a voice. And there were two guys standing outside, saying hello. Apparently they're doing a TV production there today, and they were there to rig. So I kind of had to leave. And it is normally closed apparently. A shame, but what can you do? So I'm just going to drive on. I have one more location on my Google Maps that I want to check out, and it is on the way home. So we'll make a quick stop there. I think it's like a 20 minutes drive or something like that. Hopefully we'll get one image today, but bad start to the day. Oh well, it's how it goes sometimes. It's part of the game, I suppose. This trip has been more difficult than usual for me. I have been struggling and I haven't been comfortable at any of the locations. Until now. I really like this little area here with the rocks and the scattered trees and whatnot. It's beautiful. And I've been struggling here as well, finding images. Even though we have some mist lingering on, I have been difficult to find nice subjects to photograph. I finally spotted this little tree here, nestled among the rocks with some vegetation around it. I thought it looked pretty enough, and with the mist in the background helping separating the background, it might just work. I'm not super excited by it, but at least it's an image. We'll see if it works out when I have the film developed. And I have almost finished off all the sheets I brought with me for this little trip. There's one little spot I want to find, and it's an old structure. I haven't had the best luck with those on this trip, but I'll give it a try. I found the structure I was looking for. Some sort of success. It's not much to see, to be honest. But kind of cool that I found it at least. I am going to circle around, see if I can find a composition. I am very doubtful I'll be able to do that, but I'll at least have a look. This here is one of my most technical images ever. I carefully placed the tripod so that there would be some clear sky behind that little window, so there would be some sort of interest there. I then used some front shift to just kind of move the buildings towards the center frame. I then added some front tilt to extend the depth of field as much as possible. Also some rear movements just to straighten out the lines of the building slightly. And it turned out beautiful, just how I envisioned it out in the field. Sure, it might be a tad soft down to the left of the image, but all in all, a quite technically sound image. However, that doesn't help the fact that I find this a bit of a boring image. Oh well, it was at least an image. Because, as you might have noticed in this video, there were a couple of missed frames. And, well, it turns out I'm kind of an eelhead from time to time. For this trip I've had 4 film holders loaded. 2 with NoColorStudio number 12, which is ISO 6, and 2 with Fomapan 100. And I've even marked the film holders this time around. Only on one side, but that should have been enough. And still out in the field, towards the end of the trip, I realized I'd accidentally exposed NoColorStudio when I thought I was shooting Fomapan and vice versa. And apparently 4 stop of exposure difference makes it quite hard to get good negatives. So I am a bit of an eelhead. I also lost 1 frame of NoColorStudio due to a long exposure. As you might know, you need to add a bit of time when doing long exposure for something called reciprocity failure, which I have a really hard time of pronouncing. You basically add a bit of time when you're doing long exposures on film. And well, on that first scene of that tree in the stone quarry, when shooting NoColorStudio I had measured it for 4 seconds at f16. According to my notes, I ended up doing a 30-second exposure. And in hindsight, it sounds a bit rich to me. How much you should add differ between different film, but according to an Ilford chart, the factor you should add is between 125 to 1.4. And that would mean that this exposure time should equal 5 to 7 seconds or thereabout, not 30 seconds. So I ended up with a severely overexposed image. And I actually couldn't find any info on the NoColorStudio's webpage of how much time you should add for the number 12 film. Not when I was out in the field, nor when I was back at the office. But thinking of it, it is not a normal film. This is film on paper. That led me to think you might not need to add any time at all when doing long exposure. So I emailed NoColorStudio and got an incredibly fast reply. And I was correct. You don't need to add any time when doing long exposure on the number 12 film. Perhaps if you are exceeding 10 minutes or thereabout, add half a stop for good measure. So that explains why that image was so incredibly dark. I did, however, get one image of that first scene in the stone quarry on Fomapan 100, and that turned out okay, I think. The power lines in the background doesn't bother me as much as I thought out in the field. Instead, there is this incredibly bright tree trunk right next to my main subject. That does bother me. So much so that I cloned it out in Lightroom. And I do suspect this image will never reach paper, as I do consider this a mid-image. It's okay, not more than so. And finally, we have that second scene of the tree in the mist there. And this is the only image I got of NoColorStudio number 12 that actually turned out on this trip. And it looks beautiful. I'm stoked by the result. It is a cool film. It's a fun film, and it is different than your normal negative film. I might actually do a follow-up video down the line when I've shot a bit more of it, how you handle the film and how you develop it. But I really like the result. And it is the standard image from this trip. The one that made me feel like, oh, I'm not completely incompetent as a photographer. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Do take care, and